Hollowbody, describing itself as a tech-noir survival horror short story set in the urban decay of a long-abandoned British city, is a new indie game which invites you to solve environmental puzzles, manage limited resources, and fight for a way to escape beyond the wall. Hey, I'm Glitch, and I love indie games, survival horror, and speedrunning. Hollowbody has been on my radar for a while, and I'm excited that it's finally out. After playing this game a few times, I'm now working on routing a speedrun for it. So I felt like I've kind of gotten to know this game a bit, and I wanted to share my thoughts on it for anyone who might be interested in playing, but isn't sure what to expect. Because I really want people to be able to enjoy this game, this review will be spoiler-free. You are Mika, and you are looking for your partner. A car crash has left you stranded in an empty city, and you have to find your way out. For starters, the atmosphere of this game really took me back to playing Silent Hill 2. It's raining, it's dark, all you've got is a torch to guide you. It can be pretty hard to see, and that quickly becomes very unsettling when you're surrounded by strange and eerie noises you may or may not be hearing. You are alone. You are trapped, and the world will keep reminding you of that. The graphics too are a total nostalgia trip. Everything from the color palette to the way the textures stretch over the models and environments to even the character animations felt lifted straight out of the PS2 era of survival horror that I do love so dearly. These visuals combined with a few old-fashioned game mechanics made for a convincingly retro gameplay experience that I personally really enjoyed. It's pretty hard to talk about early survival horror without bringing to mind fixed camera angles. But Hollowbody uses a mix of fixed and dynamic camera. There are points in this game where the fixed camera is used cleverly to build tension or hide something from the player until just the right moment. But unfortunately in many cases, especially in the more open areas, the fixed camera starts to be more of a nuisance than something that adds to the experience. And once you get to a certain segment at roughly the halfway point in the game, you have to progress through some narrow, twisting paths, and the camera shifting around only serves to make it frustratingly easy to get turned around, loop back on yourself, especially seeing as there's no map for this area of the game. The cyberpunk tech-noir aspect feels like it gets lost right away, because as soon as you're introduced to everything, it kind of just becomes irrelevant. And I think there's some real missed potential there. If this game had leaned a little more heavily into this idea of being tech-noir, I think it could have really helped it shape Hollowbody into a game with its own identity, something more than just being an homage to games gone by. But as it stands, the cyber element of this game is just barely present. This game takes place a few decades in the future, but since Mika is trapped in a city which has been abandoned for almost as many years, there's not much impact from futuristic technology as you walk around and you will find and look at dead bodies. And when you do, some of the digital style text appears on screen to tell you their name, date of birth, occupation, and cause of passing. Most of the time, this information is only really relevant to you, the player, if you're interested in unraveling the mysteries of this game. It gives some clues to what horrible events happened all those years ago to make the city like this, but Mika isn't concerned with any of that, so it rarely interacts with the gameplay at all. The puzzles. Unfortunately, most of the puzzles in this game are left a lot to be desired. One of the very first puzzles you come across was what I expected from the game, billing itself as a noir detective inspired, and I really enjoyed it. You are just given one clue, and you have to piece a lot of information together from documents and photographs and do some real thinking to get the passcode. It was phenomenal, and after solving it, I was really looking forward to what else might be coming my way. I felt more attentive, pulling on a detective's cap, alert to every detail, ready for the next puzzle to come my way. Unfortunately, everything else is a bit more of a generic video game puzzle. For the rest of the game, it's just find a key that unlocks a door, or combine two items to make a tool to get another item. By the time I got to the end, I felt a little disappointed by it. And you never really need to figure out for yourself where to go next or what to do, because the game is always guiding you with subtle and sometimes not so subtle lighting to tell you what to look at. This isn't always a bad thing, because it does prevent you from doing too much aimless wandering, but it is a little hand-holdy at times. Combat. In Hollowbody, what you fight and how you choose to fight is almost entirely up to the player. very true to classic survival horror games. You can choose your battles. You can fight, or you can run. And both can feel rewarding as you have to manage your limited supplies. My first playthrough, I did not end up using any guns at all, and just opted to run or utilize a decent wide array of melee weapons you find throughout the game. I do feel confident in my understanding that using the guns is about as self-explanatory as it gets. You do have to manage limited ammo, but it does not seem terribly punishing since there are so few mandatory fights, and the melee weapons do not have durability, so they will always be there to fall back on. I will say though, that there is a quirk to the melee combat in this game that I could only really describe as weird. In most games, when you are hitting the attack button, you do a sequence of attacks, and then a combo finisher. Usually something like a quick stab, and then a big wide swing to finish. And if you stop pressing the attack button for more than a second, you lose your combo and you start again from the first hit. So if you try to do a more hit and run tactic, you would just be attacking quickly for the first attack in the sequence. But the melee combat in this game seems to cue the next attack in the sequence no matter how long in between attacks, as long as you keep the weapon equipped. It's very weird to play with, and can really throw you off if you're running up to a new enemy, expecting to do the first hit and launch into the attack sequence, and instead find yourself doing a wide, slow combo finisher instead. This is made even more confusing by the fact that the speed and range of some weapons varies pretty drastically between swings, so if you aren't being super aware of what weapon you have equipped and where you are in the attack sequence, you can absolutely beef it on what should be a simple enemy encounter. All that being said, I will say this game has a good variety of both ranged and melee weapons to play with. Many of these are rewards for thorough exploration, and some weapons are even makeshift weapons you could really find lying around, which is a nice touch for realism. So if you aren't confining yourself to just melee weapons for no real reason like I did, then you will probably have fun trying different weapons and finding a playstyle you enjoy. My thoughts and overall grade. No spoilers, don't worry. My thoughts on the story is that it was just okay. It's a short story, and a lot of what's really going on is left as a mystery, and I'm kind of okay with that. Mika's single-minded goal to just find her friend and get out alive is small and understandable, and easy to empathize with. So that's what I latched onto as I played. You'll find yourself trapped in a frightening and unfamiliar city, and it's hard to tell if it's just a matter of bad luck or something larger is at play. But it doesn't seem to matter. You're not some destined hero, you're not trying to be one. You're just having a really bad day, and you have to survive and save someone you love. Overall, I feel conflicted on how to rate this game, but I personally like to evaluate on how I enjoyed the game, and for $16.99 my first playthrough, I enjoyed the living hell out of this game. I wasn't totally sure what to expect, but there was plenty I was looking forward to. There were some really solid scares, and the excellent atmosphere of isolation and dread combined with some truly unnerving camera angles made for a constant feeling of tension and unease that really kept me engaged. It is basically a single person's love letter to the classic survival horror genre, and I find that commendable. I personally give Hollowbody a 6 out of 10, and I don't consider that a bad grade by any stretch. I just feel like for most people, a higher rating puts it way more on a pedestal, and I don't want to give people high expectations and leave them to judge the game harshly when it doesn't meet them. Hollowbody is a few hours of good creepy fun for a price comparable to a trip to the movies, and if you're someone who appreciates a retro-styled game, you will probably really appreciate the visuals of this game. I would absolutely recommend this game to others, especially considering the price, and absolutely recommend picking it up if it goes on sale. But I know it might not be for everyone, and maybe the price won't seem worth it to someone who has no interest in replaying or speedrunning the game. But I can only share my personal thoughts and opinions with you, my beloved viewer, and I do hope you give this game a chance. This has been my review of Hollowbody by Headwear Games. Thank you very much for watching. And if you made it to the end of this review and found it helpful in any way, feel free to like, maybe comment, and subscribe at twitch.tv/IneedGlitch to win as we play various games, speedrun, and just overall try to hang out and have a good time.